Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update, and it is the 14th of November, Thursday, and we'll just have a brief look at Tesla, which is of course the talk of the town still. The Tesla share that shot higher after the presidential election took out the 313 resistance with ease. It is stalling a little bit, but there is still room up to 375 level, possibly higher. On the daily chart, there's no divergence on the RSI, still very bullish and very positive sentiment. Expect a little bit of a setback here, and we have seen it already, but I think it will push higher towards 375 after a correction. At least there's room up to that area, possibly higher. On the main indices, very quiet yesterday, basically unchanged, very strong bullish trend. Here we can see on the daily chart, no divergence after closing above this horizontal line there, but I could see a correction at least down to 5,900 and then possibly a bullish move higher. On the weekly, it looks a little bit stretched with the RSI showing divergence. You can see here the RSI values are really not following the index higher, so it's not really supporting that massive move, at least medium term, but let's see here in the coming days and weeks. Nasdaq 100 also more or less unchanged yesterday. There was a little bit of intraday volatility, no divergence on the RSI. I think we will see a correction down to around 20,684. Pre-market slightly lower, but there's not really much to say about that. Same picture really here also on the weekly chart. It is in a bullish trend. You should trust the trend. But also be warned that there is a divergence on the RSI. The RSI value is not really supporting this push, but we can be in imbalance or in divergence for quite some time. On the Dow Jones index, we had this bearish engulfing here on the daily, indicating a correction. I think we could see it down to 43,400, possibly lower, because this is actually a top reversal pattern. However, there's no divergence on the RSI. You can see that value down here was higher than the previous ones, indicating that we could see it push higher. But also here on the medium-term trend, we are quite stretched. But if we can get the RSI back above this falling trend line, well, then it could be cancelled. On the European market, EUROSTOXX 50, that quite volatile yesterday, but it managed to close above 47.32 support. We are in a bearish trend, however, and a negative sentiment, so there is a risk lower. But here pre-market, we are up about 0.25%. So we could maybe see it trying to get back up to the 4,800 resistance. Now it's a resistance, it was a support. And close below, the 47.32, then there's risk down to 46 range. The DAX index, 19,000, close just a couple of euros above, 3 to be exact. So still that is the key support. And the RSI is still in a positive sentiment despite showing divergence. However, we are about to establish a bearish trend, and a close below 19,000 will just do that here pre-market, bouncing a little bit. Amsterdam index bounced from the 858 support and is just trading pre-market just around that level. So that would be key to see where we will end today. If we get a bullish trade close today, well, then maybe we could see a bounce up to around 878. But if it takes out 858 once again, it does just dip below yesterday, well, then there is further downside potential. CAC, also quite a bit of intraday volatility, but closed more or less unchanged. There is potential down to 7,100, maybe even to just above 7,000 after confirming this shoulder head shoulder pattern, with potential, as you can see, after break of the neckline here, down to around the 7,000 level. It should actually be over here. There we are. So 7,029, there's risk down to that level. The Swiss markets also bounced after testing 11,630 support. Could bounce a little bit further today, maybe trying to get back up to the 200 moving average and 11,875, but we are in a downtrend and could push lower if taking out once again this support here. Euro dollar has been sell-off seems to be continuing. We are a little bit stressed at the moment here around 105.50, and if we're looking at weekly chart, I didn't hit that button, sorry. If we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see what's going on. It's taking out the minor support here at 106, and so it pushed lower below 106, and there is potential down to around 104.50 level at the lows here back from October last year. So that's actually where we are, a very bearish trend at the moment. However, as we can see here on the daily chart, there is some divergence on the RSI. So the sell-off seems to be easing a little bit. The trend is in exhaustion mode, at least short term, and I think maybe we could see a little bit of a bounce back to maybe 106, but the trend medium term also lower, and I think eventually we will move down and test this 104.50 support area, possibly also taking it out. On cable sterling dollar, we are currently testing the 127 area support here. As we can see, could also bounce a little bit. However, here there's no divergence on the RSI, so I actually think we will push lower on cable towards 126 level here. We'll get it before the weekend. I'm not so sure. We are Thursday. There's only today and tomorrow left, but going into next week, we could see it. Maybe a little bit of bounce, but here on the weekly, we can also see, well, we are pushing lower towards the 100 moving average in the cloud area. The RSI on weekly currently testing 40 threshold. That is a key level for that. If it moves back below that, well, then there could be further downside potential. But the weeklies or the daily here very important. Could see a little bit of a bounce short term. Euro sterling hasn't done much overnight. Got rejected here at the 38.2 retracement at 83.30 level. I think it will be fairly quiet here, but I mean, we are in a downtrend, but there is some support if it could dip down below 82.30. And it's quite interesting that euro dollar, cable, and euro sterling all bearish. Some of them are more bearish than the other one, and for now it seems like euro sterling is the one that should bounce a little bit further. Thinking about they can't all be bearish, but it's all about a timing issue, really. Dollar yen crawling higher after breaking above 155.20. There is room up to around 150 level, maybe a little bit higher. We have the RSI breaking above its falling trend line there, indicating we could see a push up to that level, despite showing a divergence. But when it breaks above its own trend line here, then it indicates that we could push higher, maybe in an exhaustive move. You can also see here on the weekly what we're talking about. It is the 786 retracement at 157.16. I think it will be touched, and that could be key for where will the week end on the RSI, will it end above 60 threshold or not. But I think that level will be reached, and then we'll probably see a correction lower. Euro yen, euro yen, and let's zoom in on it. Really not doing much, still around this 164.5, 165 with a 200 moving average. So it either needs to break bearish out of 163.25, but the RSI is a positive sentiment. If it breaks back above 60 threshold, then I think we'll see a push higher towards 168. The euro yen, sorry, the Aussie yen, still in this slightly rising channel here, with positive undertone also on the RSI. Should crawl higher, but it is struggling a little bit at the moment. It's like it's been forgotten, not really doing much. sterling yen, same picture, very narrow move here at the moment, or sideways trading basically, and I want to see a breakout 195.35 or 199.95 for a push higher. Aussie dollar has been sold off even further now around this 64.70 level that we talked about yesterday. It was likely to test, and now it does it. We now have divergence on the RSI, and I'll just draw a little bit of a trend line here just to give me an indication of that. See here, currently the RSI levels are not declining, or they are bouncing a little bit, and I think we'll see a bounce here the next maybe towards the weekend. And if we do, if that was just at least short term, the exhaustion of the selling pressure, we could see a bounce up to around 65.50. But let's see here. Keep an eye on that. There is, I mean, we are in a downtrend. You should trust the trend, but there could be some correction on Aussie dollar. And but if it takes out the lows from this morning at 64.59, well, then there is a risk lower down to 64. But for now, I think we will see a little bit of a bounce here throughout the day. Dollar Canada pushed higher. It finally broke above this. It tested a couple of times this 139.60 level, pushed to the 138.2 projection at just above 140. Now there's divergence on the RSI. You can see the RSI values are not really supporting higher levels, but I think we could see a push towards 140.50, which is the 161.8 projection. The Sterling Canada, I think we'll see a test of the 176.80 support. We are below the 100 moving average. We have a negative sentiment on the RSI after breaking below 178.30. So keep an eye on this level. And if it tested, it's probably not going to hold. It is a fairly strong one, but still, let's see about that. At least keep an eye on it. Euro Swiss, well, testing the lower rising trend line here, and it's been just a little bit frustrating if you're trading Euro Swiss. It is just in this range area here between 93.5 and 94.5, and that's really 93.30. I would say that's really the range it needs to break out of. It will probably bounce a little bit back here to 94 today. We have dollar Swiss that is actually pushing higher, and I think we could see it up to 89, i.e. 89 and a quarter, where we have some resistance. There's no divergence on the RSI, so it is indicating we're likely to push up to at least that level, maybe a little bit higher. The dollar index towards the 107.05 resistance, and if we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see where that comes from. This is the peak levels here back from Q4 last year, and I think we'll get up there. We have the RSI breaking above its falling trend line here on the daily chart. There is divergence, and I think a push up there to around that 107 level, and then expect a correction. Gold is actually in for a bigger correction maybe than anticipated a few days ago. The 2600 level didn't last long. That didn't hold long. And now we are very close to this 2546, around 2550 support area. We have the 100 moving average coming up, giving us some support. We can see here 2550 is the low today. The RSI is in a negative sentiment. We could push lower, but I think we will see a little bit of a bounce here today. We also had that yesterday, but it didn't last long. We could see it trying to crawl back to 2600. If it takes out, we could see it dipping below 2546. Which is 50% of this long uptrend here. We can see, if I zoom out a little bit, you can see we had this consolidation area here. So there is risk down to below 2500, 2570. On silver, also pushed lower yesterday, testing 2970 minor support, where it's actually, and also the lower part of the cloud area here, so a little bit of a stronger support, but we could dip down to around the 29 level, where we also have the 200 moving slowly coming up here. Negative sentiment on the RSI indicating lower levels. We can also see the 55 slightly turning around here, and the 100 moving average, we are below that. So key could be today at 29.70. On the copper, well, copper also took out its support areas here between 406 and 404. Currently this morning we are below that, and we are in a negative sentiment on the RSI. There's risk down to the lows here, just around 392, risk down to 390 short term. A little bit stressed, of course, so we could see a little bit of a pause here around 400, but we are in a bearish trend, could push lower. The energy market, we have WTI crude oil testing the lower rising trend line here. It's not the strongest one, but nevertheless it did it with a doji. Could bounce here today or towards the end of the week. So still holding on in maybe forming a little bit of an ascending triangle, but that is too early to call. Still the resistance up here around 72.34 is key for a bullish break. But with all the moving averages pushing lower, then I think we will see a bearish break in the coming days, maybe next week. Same here on the Brent crude oil. Obviously, RSI is still holding on above 40 threshold, so that's what's keeping it is above. And what I would do, actually, I would draw a horizontal line. You can see just around here where it actually tested at 70.72. Dutch TTF gas jumped higher this morning, opened about 4% higher. So we have this Dunkelflaute here in Europe, as they call it in Germany, where we have not seen the sun for a couple of weeks. There has barely been any wind, so the wind turbines are not producing much electricity, and the solar panels, of course, not either. So the gas prices are jumping. Now we do have a little bit of a sun today here where I'm sitting in Denmark, but we are pushing higher, and if we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see also it is pushing towards 50 euros, possibly higher. We are still in this rising trend line there. On the Henry Hub natural gas, the US nat gas, we can see also is testing this upper falling trend line, currently breaking above, and I think it will break above. We have the RSI in a positive sentiment, and now it's breaking above 60 threshold once again, and if it takes out $3 and a change, there is potential up to 360, possibly higher. On the US 10-year Treasury yields, is still holding up, testing once again the 448 minor resistance, well, actually big resistance it is, and we can see here on the weekly why it's such a big deal. 448. And I'll just round it off a little bit and say 450 if it does close above that on the week. Well, then we also have the weekly RSI closing above 60 threshold, and then there's potential up to 475 in the coming weeks towards the end of the year. On the 2-year, well, the 2 years pushing higher. It has room up to 437, and the 200 moving average. We are in a little bit of divergence here, as we can see on the RSI. The RSI is slightly declining, but there we are in a bullish trend, so could hold on to 437 before we possibly see a correction. On the European side, we have the EuroBund. This is the future we are looking at, back below 131.60, trying to get back up there. We could be caught range bound here for quite some time. It's a large range where it could we could see some volatility. So let's look at the weekly. It seems like we are forming this ascending triangle-like pattern, so we could actually be caught range bound in this area here, around 131, 132 for quite some time. Finally, on the Gilts, UK Gilts, that is close to be canceling this bullish engulfing pattern. Didn't even get up to the 38.2 retracement before resuming downtrend, and medium term you can see there's potential down to 91 before there's some support, maybe even dipping down to 90. All right, that's all for today. Talk to you later. Have a nice day.